Hey everyone, welcome back to the Above Board podcast. Today's guest is someone who is going to help us put creativity back where it belongs, which is everywhere, right smack in the middle of everyday life. Pia Mailhot-Leichter is a best-selling author, a certified coach, and the founder of Kollectiv Studio, where she helps people reclaim their creative power and build lives that actually feel alive. Her book is called Welcome to the Creative Club, and the premise is simple, but it's honestly, it's kind of profound. It's that we're born creative, and then somehow along the way, we forget. And this conversation is for the person who feels like they've been living on autopilot, doing all the right things, but quietly wondering, like, where's their edge or that creative spark that I once had? Where did that go? So Pia is here to help us remember and find that. Pia, welcome to the show.
Oh, John, thank you for the warm intro. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm so pumped to have you here. And I think this is a timely conversation. It's kind of like the beginning of the year. Still, people are talking about New Year's goals and things of that nature. And this, for me, like we could go so many different directions. And we already have, even before we hit record. And I think I want to start with this idea that, a lot of people hear the word creative and we're are conditioned to think like that's art, that's painting, that's music, that's something expressive along those lines. But I think part of your journey is that it means so much more than that. So can you kind of help our audience maybe understand what it means to live creatively, even if you don't consider yourself to be an artist?
Sure. Well, first of all, let's just smash the myth that creativity is reserved for the chosen few, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, art is one expression of creativity for sure. But there's so many other domains in which creativity lives, as you said, all of them, right? So it lives in our lives in a multitude of different ways, from opening the fridge and having like 4 ingredients and wondering what you're going to make out of it, right?
Yeah.
To I mean, some lawyers are really, really creative. Like creativity is novel, unexpected, unique ways of solving everyday problems that
Yeah.
can delight and surprise and actually shift our experience.
Yeah. I would even like to use myself as a good example or reference there, like being in the financial industry.
Oh yeah.
I think for many people, even as you hear that, it's like that sounds very black and white. Like that's, we do numbers, there's not a lot of creativity to it. And yet, and for a long time, I believe that, by the way, Pia. Like I kind of like succumbed to that. Like, yeah, I have this like boring job and, I do money math for a living. But then, you kind of realize like, especially as we started our company where we can really put this creative flair to the work that we do, like how, the brushstrokes of someone's financial life and how we weave all these things together to build a roadmap for whatever their journey looks like and what they want it to be. And money is just a tool to kind of help you work to achieving those things. So there's a lot of creativity even in what we do, but at face value, I don't think the average person sees that, unfortunately.
What was the impact of making that narrative shift for I do money math to actually no, I create a canvas where money is a vehicle to better understand what people's desires, wants, and needs are and how to help them do it?
I think it was when we started Candor Path. So my business partner and I, we just kind of realized, and you know what, actually, Pia, some of it was even just in the language of like, how are we going to brand and market ourselves, and
Mhm.
just kind of forcing ourselves to get out of the box that we feel like we're labeled in, and going like, wow, we really do help people do something pretty magical and pretty spectacular. And we own that now, and so I think some of it was just starting our company and really feeling like, because when you're you're in your profession or you start a job, our industry, any industry, you're kind of told like, here's the guidelines, here's the playbook, here's your company handbook, here's your expectations, here's how you meet them. And so you kind of just fall within those guidelines of what you're given. And then when we started our own company, we're like, well, we write the guidelines now. Like we get to do this how we want to do this. And what's really fun about it is then you feel there is like a shift also like in your energy for the work that you're doing. You feel just so much more connected to it and passionate about it. And I think other people end up being attracted to that, ironically, as well. But what was your journey? A little bit about your story and helping people get there.
I just want to underscore
Yeah.
what you're saying, because I think it's really important. I hope for people listening as well, is that when you got a chance to look at what you do through a creative perspective, through a different lens of like, hey, maybe that's what they told me I do, but actually I get to create what I do. I get to create the story of what I do. I get to create even the version of how I do finance with my partner. We get to do that. We get to create that. We don't have to follow what anyone else says it should be. And that energy is alive and very creative. And then it starts to attract the kind of clients that you want to work with and that you feel deeply aligned with and that you can actually really help them make an impact. And so I think that's just such a beautiful example of what happens when we step into our own creative power. It's like remembering like, hey, I don't have to do, whether it's your career or whether it's this thing called life, I don't have to do this in the way in which I was told I need to do it. I don't have to follow this kind of prescriptive path. And it can feel scary. I'm sure it did when you started your business. I know it did for me. And it's like, but it also feels very much alive. Like you're like, oh my God, the possibilities. What can I do? And how would I do it? How would I, Pia, how would I, John, do this? And yeah, I think when we tap into that, that's tapping into our creativity and our potential and our own unique way of moving through the world and building business and impacting people, and really what we're put here to do. And it requires courage and a dash of rebellion. So I just thought that was a really beautiful way to start this conversation because it was a great example of what happens when we step into our creativity. Because
I think that's why it was
exemplified.
As we were getting to know each other before this, like leading up to this conversation, I think that's why we connected so well, because it's fun for me to have a conversation with someone about creativity, and you're certainly more the expert on helping people find that. But I mean, I see it in my own life where I'm like, anytime I've ever been drawn to that, I'm more passionate about it. I'm more excited about what I do, and I think that's just it's a really good feeling. And a lot of people don't. I don't know. They don't give themselves the platform to even have that conversation with somebody. So I think it's special to find someone that you can have a discussion even about it, just to kind of create that, have that spark, So I'm curious, Pia, what, in the work that you do to help people with finance, which I know we'll kind of go through as we talk today, but what kind of led you, like in your journey, what led you to this place?
Whew, that's I think my whole life has led me to this place, so it can be a very long story. I think the more we come closer to doing what we love, doing what we feel pulled to do in a way that we feel pulled to do it, that's going to look like it's not going to be recognizable because it's your way, right? You're not going to be able to necessarily see examples of what that looks like. And again, that's a sign that you're on the right path. I mean, it can feel very shaky, like, I don't see anyone else doing this thing in this way. And it's like, great. That means that you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing in your way, right? So what led me here? Let me try to answer this question. Well, I worked as a creative director / copywriter / creative strategist for over maybe almost 15 years for different agencies across Copenhagen, Gothenburg, London. And creativity always felt like something I did, like something I applied to work, which was great. It's like when I remember my first agency job and I was in London and I walked into my first brainstorm and I was like, oh my God, just coming up with ideas that could solve commercial challenges in creative ways. Like, this is fantastic. I felt like I was where I should be. And I got paid for it. So I was like, wow, this is great. And then I continued down that path of commercial creativity. I grew up in a very creative home. My dad is an artist professionally. That's what he does, abstract painter. And I also witnessed that could be a very tough life in New York. I grew up in New York City. So this is New York City in the 80s, so different life. And I also saw a story started to form in my mind about the price that you pay when you
Mm.
choose a more artistic life, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
was creative. So that kind of led me more to the commercial side of creativity. And then it took life pulling the rug out from underneath me in the best of ways, going through a divorce, an unhealthy rebound relationship, getting fired from a 6-figure job where I was a creative partner and creative director building a studio with 2 other people, which I lost myself in because I was afraid to feel all of the emotions that were stirring inside me from the heartbreak and kind of just feeling really lost, like
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing? I'm just following, just kind of feel like I'm being pulled by some kind of current, but I've lost the plot, and so I
Mm-hmm.
poured myself into work, and losing that identity and losing that job, that's what it felt like at the time, forced me to sit with very uncomfortable emotions and sort of look at my life, which felt like a universe had played 52 pickup with, cards were just all over the floor, and make a different decision about what I wanted to do next. I mean, the logical decision would be continue to look for a job because I was on a work visa, but I had a severance package, if you want to call it that. I there was a voice inside me that was like, it's time to do something else. And so that something else happened to be a bucket list desire of taking the Trans-Siberian by myself for almost 5 weeks across China, Mongolia, and Russia at the
Oh,
time.
cool.
And it made kind of no sense on paper. Everyone was like, what are you doing? You just got fired and your life's in kind of tatters and you're going to go to Russia and Mongolia. And I'm like, I don't know why, but this feels like right. And I just felt like it was time to listen to another voice, not the fear voice, but something else that I would call intuition. At the time, I don't know if I would have called it that. It was just a felt sense that this was the thing I needed to do. So I did it. And on that train ride, I was reminded of 2 really important things that I had forgotten. One, that of course I was going to be okay by myself. I mean, I left my house at 17. I've been alone and just fine, and I needed to tap back into that rebellious teenager energy and remember who I was. And then of course I'll be fine. I mean, again, I grew up in New York City in the 80s, so you get some kind of street smart.
Right.
So it was fine. And 2, that the world is a huge, big, magical, wonderful place. And sometimes when I think, at least I'm feeling lost, when I was feeling lost, I had zoomed in so much, right? I had zoomed in. So I just lost perspective of how much wonder and awe and beauty were available to me,
Yeah.
because I got just too kind of stuck on street view of where I was and not being able to see it and to experience it. And on this trip, I of course experienced it like, wow, oh
Yeah.
man, I forgot how good this could be. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
Even though it came with its challenges, but also it was just magical to feel free again for a minute, And then the third, less, not really a reminder, but more of an epiphany, was when I was sitting in the rail car, hurtling through Siberia, looking around me at a drunk Russian guy in a wife beater cradling a bottle of vodka, punching a steel car door, and
Yeah.
another guy clipping his toenails on the bunk bed to the left, smelling like BO and sauerkraut, and just like sitting back like this, like leaning back, looking at this scene and having like this realization, hey, I brought myself here. I created this scene. I
Yeah.
created this moment. I'm not
Mhm.
only a creative director at work, I'm creatively directing my life.
Mhm.
And that realization or epiphany felt like the train tracks of my life shifted. Something had changed profoundly, where instead of feeling like life was happening to me, that I was also happening to life.
Sure.
And it stayed with me ever since, and it changed. So that kind of kickstarted, this was, I think it was a decade ago, it kickstarted my journey into many things, including coaching and sort of how I got here. So that's the shortest version of the story
It's
I
great.
can give
That's
you.
a great story. I mean, there's a few different things I want to pull the thread at, but one in particular is this idea of, I don't know, I guess like fear and intuition. I mean, it seems like most of us in life at some point, informed through fear, what we're supposed to do, we kind of lose that intuition. We kind of just keep following like whatever the path is that we're sort of told to, because narratives form and shape, as from a young child to adulthood. And so then we, the scarcity mindset, even, that's something that my business partner and I talk about a lot, where it's like we have to stop operating out of this fear that, like, where's the next client going to come from, or is this bad thing going to happen, or like when's the next market downturn that's looming around the corner that's going to impact things. And I've heard you say this numerous times, and I mentioned this in the introduction, that we're born creative, and then like somewhere along the way we forget. And I think it's a beautiful story in your journey of like rediscovering that. Literally having that moment of like, what's that phrase? Like, can't see the forest through the trees, like the forest and trees analogy. It's like you literally had that moment by doing this trip that you did, where you're able to kind of like step back and just see the bigger picture. So like, where do you think for folks that you coach and work with, is it like a moment? Is it a culmination moment? It's like, when do we lose that? Like, when do we lose that intuition feeling and just kind of go with this scarcity or this fear?
Oh, good question. Well, I'm going to redirect a little bit, because I think we lose touch with our creative agency. You could call it creativity, creative power, creative agency, sometimes just through the wobbles and knocks of life,
Yeah.
Like just feeling like this is what we need to do to survive. This is what we need to do to thrive. And then I'm going to pick up the kids, and then I'm going to make dinner. And then when the day is just so busy and it starts to feel like we're just going through the motions.
Yeah. Checklist. Got to do this and do this and do this. Yep.
Roles and responsibilities, expectations, ROI, circling back, all of the stuff just starts to take over. And it can feel like we're stuck. Like, well, if I leave this, I don't want to really do this anymore, but it's what I know how to do. And if I leave that, then where am I going to earn money? And I still have my student loan to pay off. And then what if, like, all of the scarcity thoughts and the fear that keeps us kind of small and stuck in a position where we're ready to break free of. Because that's the intuition that's kicking up. Like, really? We have one life, and this is what we're doing with it at the moment. You can do more than this. You don't have to. I mean, what do you got to lose? Come on. So I think we all, as virtue of being a human on this planet, go through some version of that at some point in our lives, where there's this kind of forgetting, where awe and wonder get overshadowed by responsibility, and we forget that this is a grand adventure.
You know what makes me a little sad is, and I feel like it happens pretty young, that, at some point, you think about like being a little kid. I have two kids that are 6 and 9 years old right now. And, when they're in pre-K, and they always ask the question, or like they'll have them even illustrate, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they draw an astronaut, or they say they want to be the president of the United States, or they want to, be a ballerina, or whatever the answer is. And then at some point, I don't know, I suppose it's like middle school, because like even in elementary school, my kids talk about this. My son, you know what my son wants to be?
What?
He wants to be a snow cone maker or an astronaut.
Yay.
And I'm like, and honestly, they do like a pre-K like graduation ceremony last year. So when he was done with pre-K, you walk across this bridge, which is sort of symbolism of like going into the next step of, going into kindergarten. And they announce, in front of the whole, room, what does he want to be when he grows up? And it was a snow cone maker. And everyone's like, oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Right. But then, like, if he was in 7th grade or 8th grade going into high school and they did that same ceremony, people would be like, wait a minute, we should be a little more realistic. What are we going to be like? You kind of have an engineer personality. Maybe you should be a doctor or an engineer. Or that, like, somewhere along the way, we start being told that like the dreams that we have when we're little are not realistic. And I think that that's an unfortunate thing, isn't it? And I mean, as a parent, I think about this. I'm like, how do I navigate those waters with my kids? But I love that, like, they have these dreams that are big. He's like, some days he's like, Dad, I want to be an astronaut. I'm like, be an astronaut, bud. Like, that's great. Like,
Yeah.
you could do that. Like, you
Yeah.
could do that. But then somewhere along the way, maybe if, a student's grades aren't very good or whatever, hey, you need to be more realistic. Hey, you're not going to go to that school. You're not going to play that professionally. And like, within the confines of life, sometimes that's true. Like, I'm not 6'7" and I can't dunk a basketball. I'll never be an NBA player, even though when I was a kid, I wanted to be. But like, I don't know. I don't know if what I'm getting at. I'm not really even getting at a question.
I know what
it's an
you.
observation that I'm making that's sad.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, here's the thing that I think is even sadder: when the external voices become internalized, and we start to tell ourselves what we're not capable of or what's not realistic. That's heartbreaking, because with every client I've worked with, actually, when I ask them, like, in your wildest imaginings, where are you from a year from now? What are you doing? Who are you with? How does it feel? What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's happening? And sometimes people get nervous about this question because a dream can quickly become a plan. And then that fear voice creeps in of like, okay, well, if I share this and what if I don't do it in a year, then we'd be really sad and disappointed. So maybe I should just, like that whole, the mental machinations of that. And so then I'll say, okay, let's do this. Why don't you think of 3 possible futures, 3 wildest imaginings? Then all of a sudden the mind, like, we get more playful because it's an experiment. It's not a plan. It's just a dream. It's just a question to get you curious about yourself and to get some data. Like, okay, literally do anything you want. Like, what do you want to do? And in 100% of my clients to date, the answer to that question is not a moonshot. It's something that's obtainable. It's not like, and even if it was, it would be fine. It's not that. It's just so interesting to observe that, yeah, you could do that. Like that, it's not being a basketball player when you've never, shot a hoop before. It's something that's attainable, and yet something within us is kind of stopping us from going for it or getting it. And so somehow that feels related to what you're talking about with when being told what's realistic or what's not realistic. And then sometimes not only do we internalize that voice, but we don't give ourselves permission to even imagine what it could be.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. And we talk about this like within my company as a team. Like, we have some pretty big, what I would define as moonshot goals for what not only, and because we're finance, it's always about like, what are the assets, and what, like, it's very dollar oriented sometimes, but it's not just that. It's like, what is life like? What's our company going to look like? Like, what's our culture going to be? How are we going to collaborate? And something that's big for us is like this, we call it the ensemble approach, but like this team-based approach. Like, I never want to lose that, and no one else at the team does either. And so we talk about all these different things that kind of roll up to like, what's this moonshot goal? And I think it took a long time to even say that out loud. Like, I don't think I said it out loud until probably like 2020. And I remember talking to Matt, my business partner, and he's just like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, right, but like, what, and of course he's on board with it. And now we're like, it's a shared vision and shared goal. But it's like, well, what's the work? Like, so what? We don't hit it? Like, so what? It's like, it's still something to like visualize and dream towards and think about. And I don't know about you, but stuff like meditation and visualization, it doesn't come naturally to me, but I know the value of it. And so I like force myself to do it. So I'll do like active visualization. And go ahead. I can tell you.
Well, it does come naturally to you then, because, there are many different ways to sort of meditate and visualize. There's not only one way to do it. Back to this again, in the sense of like, we're told there's one way to do it, but no, we can get creative. There's a lot of different ways. So what ways speak to you?
So good point. And it probably is something that over the years got lost because I'm in checklist and go mode and work and blah, blah, blah. And you don't think to spend these extra few moments. It doesn't have to be an hour of sitting there in my back patio and meditating. Sometimes for me, it could be 3 minutes of like just breathing exercises and just thinking, like vision casting of like, what do I want life to look like? And so it's funny because I say it's funny, but over the years, as I've done this for like the last like 5 to 7 years. And when I started doing it, it was very like what you were saying about, when people give you their goals in a year from now and it's not even moonshots, it's like very attainable, like practical things. Mine were just very, maybe not easily attainable, but they were just like what society would conventionally tell you is a goal. It was like, have a dream home, have a nice car. And so at first that worked because that did motivate me. I was like, well, I want to work towards these things. Like, I'm excited about this. And now as it's taking more shape and as my kids are getting older, I'm like, scrap all that. None of that. Like, that's not like my value system. It's like, I want to have this cool experience with my kids. I want to be able to go pick them up from school today and go take them out for ice cream and like be present with them. Not, dad's got to work until 7:00 tonight because he's too busy. And so it's starting to change. But it's funny that you acknowledge that I said, because I think you're like, it probably does come natural to me, but I lost that along the way, which is a lot of what we're talking about, actually.
Yeah. Well, what made you lose it? Just curious. Where did you lose it? Or like, how do you know you lost it? Any one of the 3 questions is a lot.
I would say I think I know I lost it because I found it again. So it was like, it wasn't a practice I was doing. And you're right. Like, so when I say it doesn't come naturally to me, when I do it, it feels pretty natural, but it's just not something of habit that I was doing because, so I am very, like, I love being productive and I love being efficient. And like,
What's
for
important about
example,
that too? What's important about being efficient?
productivity, like I can do one more phone call. I can, everything that we do is about like servicing our client in my works world, like in my
Sure.
workspace. Right. And so it's like, all right, like I want to stack habits. So like I need to go on a walk. So I'm going to go on a walk to clear my head, but I'm not really going to clear my head because I'm also going to place this phone call and have this conversation while I'm getting a little bit of exercise, or, I'm going to go on a walk and I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm going to do all these. And I'm like very much trying to undo that now. But I think over the years it was like, in my working hours, I need to be efficient. I need to be operating at like high productivity. We talked about this before the show with like taking a nap during the workday. Like, how good is that for you to do? But like, the average person can't even allow their brain to think like, I could probably take a 30-minute cat nap,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really curious about where are you trying to get to with productivity? So let's say you're super efficient, you're hyper productive. Then what? What is it? What's
Geez, these are good questions. I don't know who's going to answer these questions today. I would say it's probably derived from my value system. Like, I like being valuable to other people. I like being helpful to other people. And so if I'm not available for that meeting or for that call, then I'm not able to be helpful. And so I want to be able to cram as much of that into my day as I can. Like, I'm thinking as you're asking me that, but that feels at least like I'm on the right path to why that's probably that way.
Yeah, it sounds like you define being helpful by always being on,
Yeah.
available. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because when I heard you talk about what matters to you, how the goals have shifted, it's about being present and picking up your kids on
Yeah.
time, right? And so
Yes.
there's an interesting, at least I'm hearing 2 interesting energy, like 2 energies, right? Like the energy of, well, being of value means that I'm always available, I'm always on, I'm answering every call, I'm attending every meeting. Whenever someone rings, I jump and that's what I'm hearing. You hear there's like an energy to it, and the other one, you said it even slower, like I just want to be present and pick up my kids, and
Yeah.
so I guess the question is like, well, what do you want being of service to look and feel like to you?
I think it would be probably putting some guardrails around it and being valuable and present, because being valuable and present exists in every area of my life, just like being creative can and should. So it's like there's the work version of my life, and within that it's with my team or with clients, and then there's the family version, which is with my wife and my kids and my family. And so I think what I've been really tracking towards this year, kind of like second half of last year going into this year, is almost like undoing my habits and tendencies of like, I want to enjoy a cup of coffee on my patio with my wife because I'm enjoying that time and that leisure, not like, all right, I'm pouring this coffee to go, get it in the car, take it in the mug because I got to race the kids to get to school on time. And then, then I'm coming home and I got the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I'm always like what I've habitually done over the years because it was like this productivity hack for me is like I'd stack one thing on top of the next. All right, I got to go from this to this to this. Barely give myself enough time to like have a sip of water or like go pee, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
really trying to undo that and enjoy, like be a little more. I realize it's hard to be present when you do that because your brain is just shifting from one conversation or activity or task to the next, and like it's not even necessarily multitasking, but it is hard for your brain to shift that way. So anyway,
I'm still curious about what are you trying to get? Like, what's the end game for productivity? Because like, what's the story you're telling yourself about productivity and habit stacking? And let's go.
I think what I'm trying to undo there and get to is just like more of a place of peace. Now, prior though with productivity,
Okay.
that was my value system. It was like I'm available, I'm useful, I want to be productive. It made me feel good to be productive.
Well, I
And I
just want
think
to.
I've proven to myself that I can be that way now. Like I can be a productive person, but like now I'm going to flame out and be, burn out and be too tired if I can't find my peace and my balance.
Absolutely. And it sounds like service or being of value is, as you said, it's an important value of yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm curious about how you honor that for yourself, being of service to yourself. Because often with our values, it can also be external facing or our purpose for that matter. And there's
I struggle with that, Pia. I think that's probably a lot of what we're talking about today. That's why I love doing podcasts like this, because I joke that it's like my live therapy sessions that I get to do with friends and guests that come onto the show. I heard this thing that was like, yeah, it was like an Instagram reel, but those are my favorites sometimes to scroll
yeah.
through that are that are feel good things. And it was like, this person looking in the mirror and it's like, I've forgiven everybody, something to the effect of like, I've forgiven everybody in my life. I've given everyone in my life grace except for myself. And like, it was the metaphor of like looking back at yourself and giving yourself that grace too. And I think that that's something for me personally that I struggle with. It's like in my mind, I'm the last person to. So you're asking me like, how are you of service to yourself? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out because like that's, but I do think slowing down and focusing on peace and what that means for me is like, something as simple as just not being like 5 meetings stacked on top of each other and having moments in between to just, even if it's 5 minutes, to breathe. I mean, I have like written here on my desk, I literally have like, just stop, breathe, and be.
Yes.
My wife wrote that and put that there for me probably a year ago. I look at it every day. I look at it and I'm like, yes, do that for a moment. So,
and
anyway.
It sounds like that doing that will give you peace. Yes. And presence for yourself and other people, which honor your value of being of service. Yeah. But you're also in integrity because you're doing it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I learned when I was, building Kollectiv Studio, and I do a lot of work unleashing creativity in other people through coaching and through creative partnership. And I was doing that. It's just what I did. And then I got a call to write the book, right? And I remember how nervous I felt and how excited, and it felt right. And then scarcity and all the fear came in, but I had gone through coaching certification, so I was able to coach myself through and be like, aha, fear is here. This kind of fear means I'm on the edge of a precipice, something big and important, and I don't know what's on the other side. And I have to jump to find out, to expand, to get big, to go for it. But what I'm trying to share with this, there's a lot of things that came through that experience, but it reminded me or showed me that, hey, wait a minute. If my purpose is to unleash creativity to build a better world, I better be unleashing my own damn creativity. Mm-hmm. And for me, that looked like my own projects too, like writing a book, right? which would, yes, hopefully the intention was to benefit and impact other people, but at the end of the day, it's unleashing what's within me. And that felt really important and powerful to me, because to me it's integrity.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm also asking you the questions, like, if that's your value or your purpose, is like, well, how are you living that for yourself so that you model that for other people as well? Because people, I think that's felt. If someone is living out their purpose just for others, which is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but not for themselves, or not honoring themselves in terms of what they value, and kind of putting that, I like to think of it as like a big headlight and satellite antenna that's out here. Like, I think a lot of us have developed really good satellite systems to feel into other people. Well, we need to also, that's a skill, we have it, it's a muscle. We need to be able to turn that around into ourselves as well. Right? So I don't know, that's a lot of things. And then I just want to share something on Instagram that came through that is speaking to the stop, breathe, be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it said, and I love this so much, because, by the way, we are a lot alike. I was also raised on the laced up amphetamine milk of New York City and busyness. And I think it's part of our cultural story that our value comes from being productive.
Mm-hmm.
Our worth comes from when we're producing or creating. And I think that's a narrative that can be very harmful. Personally, I'm rewriting that. But anyway, here's a quote. It was, "Everything is a win when the goal is experience."
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That really synthesized things that I've been thinking about for a long time, and it landed with such a thud, because I can catch myself in situations where, once again, I'm losing the plot. I'm getting really, really busy trying to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
Instead of enjoying the experience that I'm having right now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, life is 99% process. We hit that peak of the mountain a few times and it looks great, but the view is also great when you're walking.
Yeah.
And so imagine how much we miss out on when the goal is an experience. We miss our lives.
I love that, and I also take it like I'm thinking of it like in maybe a different way too, where I look at like my like past experiences, because that informs and shapes how you are. And so I look at situations, how I handled myself in something where I was like busy and scatterbrained and whatever. I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, that was such a bad experience for me. It was like, so at the end of last year, it just ultimately led to me getting like just sick. Like, I got like, I think it was like the super flu, that's like going around now or whatever. But I mean, I was sick for like 3 weeks, just down with the flu, had a bad bug. And yeah, I mean, maybe I got exposed to something, but at the same time, I'm like, I know that I just like worked myself too hard. And I really, you're just laying in bed and you're too tired to even pick your head off the pillow. You have a lot of time to reflect and a lot of time to think. You don't necessarily have the energy to go do something, but you sit there and think and watch the end of Netflix, which I watched too much TV. But like, I was just sitting there and I'm like, I can't do this again. Like all these, like it just had me thinking a lot about, my experience and how it would have been different had I just slowed down a little bit. And by slowing down, what does that mean? It's not like I'm not going to get to where I want to go in life or wherever I'm trying to go in life. Like, I think you have to kind of learn from those past experiences to say like, that was such a painful thing to emotionally feel or to go through, or then like have it maybe manifest physically into being sick. And you're like, I don't want to do that again. Like, I can't wind up in that situation again. And so what's great about you is this is quite literally what you help people with, right?
Yeah. And I think slowing down, well, before I segue, another great Navy SEALs quote: "Slow is smooth and smooth is fast." And I love that so much.
I love that too.
Isn't it? And it's from the Navy SEALs. So it's like, that's the way. And I think that's what we rob ourselves of, is the opportunity to really get into flow, to direct our energy, our creativity, to make more conscious creative choices when we speed through our lives and just react to what's coming our way and forget that we also are the main character, the actor
Mm.
in our own show, right?
How do you help? How do you either in the journey with yourself, or you were kind of using yourself as an example? Like, how do I uphold the integrity of doing this as a profession and coaching other people if I'm not doing it for myself? So this is a
Mm-hmm.
question either for you and or the community of folks that work with you and that you coach or follow Kollectiv Studio. It's Kollectiv Studio, right?
That's right.
What are some ways that you help people with that? I don't know, like maybe it's something that they're working on, or like how do you help people go slow as smooth and smooth as fast? Like how do you help people like that connect with people?
Well, first, I think it's important to ask, why is slow important? If anyone is listening, like, what's important about going a bit slower and like stepping off the carousel or the treadmill or whatever metaphor you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because it's important to give ourselves space to reflect on what it is that we want to create and make real in our world.
Mm.
And it needs space. We need space, and not just like, oh, I'm going to do this for the quarter. Every day we need to meet ourselves in some way, in whatever way feels right. That could look like so many. It could be like taking a walk in nature. It could be sipping on a cup of tea on your patio. It could be journaling. It could be meditation. It can look like so many different things. Whatever makes you just take a moment to meet yourself. How you feeling? How you doing? What do you want? Where you at? What's happening? Is a really important part of the creative process.
Yeah.
I mean, to sit down and create anything, you need space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My wife told me in December, so after I got over being sick, and this was the reason I ended up taking, like, I took time off, like the second half of December off. And she's like, you just need space to be bored again. Like she's like, you need to be it. And like in the busyness of life, even when you take time off, it's like, okay, now like we're taking the kids to Disney, we're doing these things. So like even that's busy. Like
Yeah.
you're active, you're thinking about other things, you're doing other stuff. And she's like, you need to like go to a hotel for a couple of days, like just like literally just get bored so that your brain can just run creatively. Cause that's how I always feel like I operate at my best. And, for my wife to acknowledge, like, you've just gotten so wrapped up in the busy, in the doing of the work, that like you can't even pull yourself out for long enough to dream about what's the next thing. Like just be bored enough, even if nothing comes of that exercise, like just go be bored. And man, was she right. Like, man, was she, like, I'm talking like it wasn't more than a day and a half of being bored. And I was like, journaling all kinds of notes, and such a good feeling to find that flow state.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, just as I'm kind of wrapping up that story, is like, so far this year, we work virtually. We have a team of 8, and we're on like Google Chats and Zooms a lot with clients and stuff. And a couple of members of my team have commented specifically like, oh, I could tell you were in like your flow state in this conversation when you gave this look on the camera, and like I knew like we had you all in, and like and you were ready to go. And I thought that was such a kind statement, but then I also knew like, well, that means that they can very well tell when I'm distracted, when I'm looking all over the place, when I'm thinking about being in the next thing. And so, because one of my questions for you was going to be like, how do we capture that feeling of flow state more, and how do we hold on to it longer? And I think I've sort of like, I'm coming to an answer of like, you just have to give yourself the space for it.
Absolutely.
Sounds like, yeah.
Space and removing the pressure of what needs to happen in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
Especially for creativity, if you sit down and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to create space so I can get into a flow state, so I could get this specific desired outcome. Creativity doesn't thrive in this.
Here's writer's block.
Yeah,
like that's
exactly.
It's not going to happen.
And it's like, if you sit down and you're like, okay, well, I have some space, and whatever comes up is fine. Whatever I create, it doesn't have to be good. It could be absolute shit. It's a win because I'm sitting here and I'm just going to allow it to come through. Doesn't have to be anything. Yeah. See what happens. I mean, that's what helps me when I have like a first draft phase of any kind of project or something I'm working on. It's if that inner critic comes into the space, I'm like, this is not the time for you, right? Like you can come back later in the evaluating phase because there is a place for that. Like, okay, well, what works, what doesn't work, but not in that initial creative, juicy kind of flow. Let's see what's here. Let's play. Let's experiment. Let's just allow it to be whatever it needs to be. And I think that's really, really important. And we can just get so attached to what it needs to do for us that we strangle what's trying to come through, because sometimes what's trying to come through might not look anything like you could have imagined it because it's creative. I mean, if you can imagine it exactly as what it's going to be, then you've seen it somewhere before or you've done it before.
Yeah.
It's not very creative, right? So it's like if you want to do something for the first time, you want to create something new, and you have to be prepared to enter the unknown and see what appears.
You must have the coolest conversations with your clients that you coach. You really, because I mean, I'm just thinking about this, like, when someone hires a coach, a performance coach or a mindset coach or whatever, it's like, I think a lot of people are like, okay, what am I going to get out of it? What's the checklist? Like, give me the tasks. And this conversation feels so much slower and more methodical and just more and so when someone works with you, I'd imagine like they're coming to you with a lot of buy-in for that. And I bet you end up having some of the coolest organic discussions with other people.
Definitely. I mean, if first of all, if people don't come to me with the desire for me to tell them what are the 10 things they need to do to become more creative.
Yeah.
Because that's something I fundamentally, first, I don't think that's coaching. And second, my coaching supervisor, he was like 70 something. He was amazing. He'd been coaching for 40 years. He said something that really stayed with me. He said, everyone who comes to coaching is really looking for the answer to one question. What's right for me? Fundamentally, what's right for me? And the only way to find that out is to explore yourself. It's not someone else who's going to give you the 5-year plan or the 10 steps or that's what's right for them. That's what helped them succeed. It might work for you, might not, but most of the time I found that what works for them might not work for you. But you need to create your own 10 steps, your own path. You need to discover what it is that makes your heart beat faster, what stands in your way, what triggers you, what motivates you, what you might be avoiding, what you really, really want to make real in your life and what you want to create. And only you have those answers. So I'm not here to give anyone answers. I'm here to guide them to theirs.
Agreed. And I think talking through that with someone really brings that from somewhere in the depths of their brain to their like a higher level of awareness. It's buried in our subconscious there.
Absolutely.
Like it's there. Like
it's there 100%.
I think people need help to have that, cultivated and maybe pulled out of them and so that they can see it. And also then when you start talking about it, just like your awareness to it becomes just so much more focused on it. Like, again, not to keep using myself as an example, but it's like, knowing that presence and peace is a priority for me. I could have said that 4 years ago. And like, that's a nice thing to say. I think people want that. We all want to feel peace. Like, we all want to be present wherever we are, but I wasn't showing up that way, or I wasn't making that my priority, and I wasn't talking with other people about that. And so how's that ever going to happen if I'm not having conversations and actively working towards it,
And what does peace feel like to you?
Yeah. Is that a rhetorical question? Or
no, that's a real, that's a question. Like, what is it? How do you know when you're in a feeling peace? Like, what does it feel like?
I would say for sure. Is it okay that it looks different at different points? So like, yeah, go ahead.
Everything that you say for yourself is A-okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is your answer. You
As I said that, I'm like, John, there's no such thing as a stupid question, but that is a stupid question. So like, I think peace for me at times is being in, for example, like we talked about before, it's like being in my flow state. Like, I love that. I'm a creative soul and I love being able to have conversations with my team where, like, in this instance, we're like planning for an event and I was like, oh, we could do like XYZ, we can do these and you're just like, I just feel that like that creative flow coming, and it's just, that feels great, and I love capturing that. And then other times it really is the slowness and the stillness of life where I can take a moment, I can end my day early or even on time, but not like I'm just running up to this thing and now I got to go like, okay, I got to shake it off and now I got to go be present with my family on the other side of these doors in my home office. But like the slowness to be like, all right, I'm going to end my day like 30 minutes early. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to like decompress. Then I'm going to come in and there's no agenda tonight. And we don't need to like rush to the baseball field for practice and rush here and rush there. But like, I just get to hang out. Or if we are doing that, like just be along for that ride in a joyful way. So there's a couple of different ways that reflects for me, but I can tell you for sure, I think as I'm even saying this out loud, I'm realizing it, like the not cramming of like 1,000 things into a moment is one of them. And also you said something that's kind of reflecting in a personal sense where you talked about not forcing it. Like, so you're creating the space for something, but then you can't force creativity either. And I would say the same thing, with my family. Like a good example is my wife knows this. Like I like after a softball game for my daughter, I like being the one to drive her home. Like we'll typically go separate because I'm coaching and I'm there early and I like driving home with her because I love having these conversations to reflect, especially when something goes bad, when something doesn't go the way she wanted it to. Like I remember that as a kid having that moment, and sometimes you don't want to talk at all in the car. Sometimes you want to, but I love being able to have the space to have moments like that. And then sometimes organically, the most amazing conversation with my daughter comes. And then other times it's like I'm forcing something and you can feel it in the car, and you just to have the time to let go and not go like, this is a very important moment. I need to make this impressionable. I need this to last, just to give yourself that space. So I'm going all over the place, but you're really helping me hone in on it, which has been a fun part of this conversation.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is when you're present, it feels peaceful.
Yeah.
Because that's the red thread. When you're in flow, you're very present. When you're in flow, you're deeply present in the moment. You're nowhere else. You're not planning about what to have for dinner. You're not in the past. You're deeply present. And when you're relaxed and calm and creating space, you're present. You're present for your daughter. And when you're present for your daughter without expectation of what that moment needs to look like, then you're even more present and peaceful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the expectation of what it should look like is taking you out of the moment that you're actually in. So if you're up for this, I would request to think about also what being present and peaceful feels like in your body. You don't have to, you can answer it now if you want to. Just curiosity about yourself. Mm-hmm. Does your heart rate slow? Do your shoulders go back? Like, what does it, just notice, like, what does it feel like? And then where are situations in your life that you can create that feeling within yourself? Like, I feel it right now. Am I wrong? Are you feeling peaceful at the moment? Yeah. Right. So it's a felt sense. And then imagine the value that you bring to everyone you interact with, from your clients to your daughter, when you're feeling that present peacefulness. Yeah.
It's joyful.
Right.
And I think that's what you're feeling in this conversation. Like this is joyful for me. And we talk about a lot of different things on this show, and we thread in finance every now and again because that's my profession. But like these conversations are so joyful for me. And so I think that's what you're feeling. I think this is just such a good reminder for people that are hanging with us today and listening to us that creativity is like a birthright. Like it's not something that is reserved for people who are just artists.
No, definitely not. And what we're describing might sound like many things. We're like, well, that doesn't necessarily sound like creativity. But for me, it's a deeply creative act to get closer to what it is that you want to experience. What's the feeling you want to experience? Because I would argue that more than things or goals, we're after the feeling the goal will give us. When I do this thing, then I will feel peace. Mm-hmm. We know that's not how it works. We've experienced that. So you can create the feeling of peace right now.
Yeah.
And that's a deeply creative act when you connect with what makes you feel peaceful, presence, deep presence. Oh, when am I present? I'm present here. I'm present there. Oh, this is what presence feels like in my body. Oh, look, I can feel it right now. You just created that experience for yourself.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it can be pretty, in some simple way, very mind blowing to go, oh, that feeling that I really wanted, that like that goal was supposed to give me. Well, I can create that for myself now.
Mm-hmm.
How wild is that? I mean,
So
that's
this is,
creating your one experience of life to me is the most creative act. What is more creative than that?
yeah. And it's so beautiful that like this is such a passion and calling for you in your life, and you get to help people do this
It is.
for them. That's
It's
amazing.
it is. And I get to create it for myself. And I catch myself in getting stuck in old patterns or scarcity for me. When you said productivity, like ask what was driving you, like what belief, what was driving you. It's like not enough time, not
Mm-hmm.
enough money. If I don't do this, then I won't. And when we start to play the negative what if game, we can also play the positive what if game.
Yeah.
Like, what if
Yeah.
I have all the time in the world? The what if I have all the time until I don't, obviously one day I'll clock out. But right now, like I have all the time, then I can take a nap when I'm tired.
Yeah.
That is when my belief and behavior are in sync. They're aligning. So then my body can believe it. If I believe I have all the time in the world, but I act like time is scarce, then my body's not going to believe it. There's going to be what's the word I'm like, doesn't matter. Can't remember the word. It's just, it's not harmonious. It's not going to believe it. So it's
Yeah.
like, if there's a certain belief we want to have about ourselves and about life, because we all have beliefs, it's just becoming aware of which ones are driving us and we want to rewrite them. Then what behaviors support that belief? Because I'm also moving to more abundant mindset, speaking of finances, but in everything. And abundance is also in ideas and creativity. And you can
Yeah.
sit down and know that the ideas are already within you or they're already around you, looking to land on you, whichever way, maybe both. We have abundance. Money is here and it's on its way. I'm fine in this moment. I'm here now. Let me stay
Mm-hmm.
here. I mean, these are all ways that we get to create our experience and catch ourselves when we go off script or when we go off rails, when we're starting to follow an old it could be a family story, a societal story about life, which then creates our experience. We get a chance to rewrite it. And it's a practice. I'm practicing all the time. It's a lifelong practice of
Thank you for saying that part.
be, and stop, breathe, and be. Stop, breathe,
Yeah.
and be is, to me, that's lifelong. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I'm gonna get there one day. No, every time you catch yourself, oh, I'm rushing again. Oh, I'm equating my value with me being as available as possible, which means I'm actually not that available because I'm not present because I'm thinking about the next place I have to be,
Yeah.
which doesn't give me a
Yes.
feeling of peace, which
Yes.
actually doesn't make me deeply present, which takes me away from my creativity on stop,
Right.
breathe, be, right? And it's not chastising ourselves when we fall off or revert. It's just going, oh, okay, that was interesting. We did that. Let's do something else. Let's make a different choice. Let's create a different experience.
I appreciate you saying that it's like there's a practice to it, because I think there's one thing to have that like epiphany moment to realize this about yourself, and then for a little while you work towards that. But we all know things will happen, emergencies will happen in life, just life will pop up, and so you have to continue evolving with it and practicing with it. And I wanted to, as we're kind of wrapping up the show, I wanted to take a moment to talk about your book, Welcome to the Creative Club, because I imagine you probably talk about this in the book. But for the folks listening, you can find this nearly anywhere, including Amazon. But can we just take just a moment to talk about the book?
Sure. Well, you summed it up so beautifully. It's like we're born creative, then we forget, and this book helps you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it really combines, oh man, it's part memoir, part manifesto, part, gentle rebellion and reminder. It's more than just something to consume. It's also an invitation to create. So there's field work at the end of every chapter. It's really an invitation to reconnect with your creative power and
I
all the
love it.
different ways and shapes that can take form.
Well, as a gift to our audience, what I'd like to do is give away 5 copies, Pia, of your book. So all you have to do listening to the show is be one of the first 5 to text us. So text us at 407-904-8414 and just say, hey, John, send me a copy of Pia's book. Give me your address, super simple, and then we'll send it your way. Pia, as we're wrapping up today, what is maybe some of the best ways I know you're on Instagram and on YouTube, so I just want to take a moment to maybe shout out those handles for folks to follow and connect with you.
Sure. Kollectiv Studio is where you can find out more about the work I do, the book. I think everything I'm up to is pretty much there, including my Substack, which is, it's another way to keep the conversation going with the community and people.
Okay, perfect. And we'll tag that in the show notes so folks can follow those links. Pia, thank you for joining me today.
John, thank you for having me. I felt like we could have talked about so many things for hours, and that's like the best feeling ever. So thank you for co-creating this experience with me.
Listen, it was an awesome conversation. I'm ready for a part 2 that we can do on
Yes.
abundance, because I feel like we could make this a series of
Count me in.
conversations for sure. But definitely just a great way to start the year for not only me, but for our audience as well, to have a conversation with you like this. So thank you for joining us truly and sincerely. And speaking of our audience, thank you, the listener, for hanging out with Pia and I today. If you prefer to watch this episode instead of just listen to us, head over to our YouTube channel. You can find it at theaboveboardpodcast.com. Thank you again, Pia, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.